our country needs to unify, to heal, and to remain one nation under God. We cannot remain a force for peace in the world if we are not at peace with each other. It's time to expose the crooked media deceptions. We have to speak to Mitch, and we have to speak to everybody. You got to go to 51 votes, and if they don't do that, they're just wasting time. Nobody wants me to talk about your other senator, who's weak on borders, weak on crime. We are not defined by the color of our skin, the figure on our paycheck, or the party of our politics. We are defined by our shared humanity.
Well, those three speeches happening within 48 hours. Three different speeches. Some analysts saying perhaps two different presidents making two different messages. This as there is some pushback and some battles between the Republican Party. The president tweeting out about Senator Jeff Flake. Phoenix crowd last night was amazing, a packed house. I love the great state of Arizona. Not a fan of Jeff Flake, weak on crime and border. Of course, he's the sitting incumbent senator there. Politico has a piece saying before taking the stage in Phoenix, the president huddled backstage with State Treasurer Jeff DeWitt and former state GOP Chairman Robert Graham. Both are considering running against Flake. And we have a picture that shows the meeting right before he went on stage out there in Phoenix. And that obviously showing some different takes on the situation on a re-election. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is backing the incumbent Jeff Flake. Let's bring in our panel. Guy Benson, political editor at townhall.com. Susan Page, Washington Bureau Chief at USA Today. And Byron York, Chief Political Correspondent of the Washington Examiner. What do you make of these speeches and the messages and the interpretations, Byron?
Well, after the very presidential Afghanistan address Monday night, primetime address, Commander-in-Chief, matters of war and peace, I think his staff and a lot of people were worried that he would just go rogue in Phoenix, and that's exactly what he did. But I have to say, if you've watched a lot of Trump's speeches, especially his campaign speeches, this was very characteristic. It was a classic Trump sandwich. He starts off on message, talking about unity and other stuff. Then he just goes off for 45 minutes and goes all over the place. He relitigates Charlottesville. He attacks McCain. He does all sorts of stuff. And then at some point he remembers, I got to talk about jobs again. And he gets back on script for the rest of the thing. That is classic Trump. And I didn't actually see that much, other than the news about threatening to shut down the government if he doesn't get funding for the border wall. I didn't see that much that was new about it.
Which did raise some eyebrows. Let's take a listen to that and hear the House Speaker.
Now, the obstructionist Democrats would like us not to do it, but believe me, if we have to close down our government, we're building that wall.
So I don't think anyone's interested in having a shutdown. I don't think it's in our interest to do so. While we work on doing what we actually said we would do, what we've done already in the House, and we need to do, which is to control our border. So I don't think you have to choose between the two.
And as predicted, Susan, when Congress, the leadership comes back, they're going to go to the White House, including Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and the House Speaker, and talk about the way forward on these big items. But that kind of concerns some on Capitol Hill.
And perhaps trying to get a vote from Senator Flake on some of the issues coming up. I love the phrase Trump sandwich. And just to go back to that buffet item, we saw that the previous week, too, because the president's initial comments about Charlottesville took one tone. Then he came out Monday and read a much more statesmanlike, conciliatory words. And then on Tuesday he did that remarkable press conference, which was, again, totally off message. And so which is the Trump that people should believe is the real Trump? And I would say it's the filling in the sandwich, not the bread. Because those are the moments when President Trump seems to be really speaking what he means, what he really thinks. And that'll be the President Trump, I assume, that ends up negotiating with Mitch McConnell and others on some of the big issues that are coming up in September with Congress. Three
Republican lawmakers on the same kind of analysis of these speeches.
We saw sort of two different presidents in the last two nights. I thought the president did an exceptional job on Afghanistan. I think we would be better served if that's the president we saw more often.
I wish he'd go after, Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un as much as he is the Republicans.
The president feels that that's a strategy that works for him. I would just say that I think it's important that we all stay unified as Republicans to complete our agenda.
But, Guy, how many times have we heard that this is going to change, or this is the guy we wish was in the Oval Office? These are Republicans who are trying to figure out how to deal with the guy they saw in Phoenix.
Yeah, he's not going to change. This is who he is. This is the man who was elected president. I mean, it really struck me watching all the media response to the speech in Phoenix. People shocked, people fainting. Can you believe? Yes, I can believe it. Where have you been for the last 2 years? I mean, if you were orbiting the Earth in a satellite somewhere with no access to any information and you parachuted into Phoenix last night, yes, that would have been a very bizarre political performance. But if you've been a sentient human being for 2 years, it is exactly what we have come to expect, because that's Donald Trump. That is the president, and whether you like it or not, people elected him knowing that is precisely who he is.
But the off-script, there was a lot of, there were legitimate points in the off-script stuff when he's talking about Republicans who couldn't get their act together after 7 years of promising to repeal Obamacare. He's absolutely right about that. Some of his attacks on the press, same old thing, but some people in the press afterwards came out as if prompted by the president and went way over the top in their commentary and suggested he was suffering from dementia or was psychotically demented.
Yeah, so and part of that coverage included the former National Intelligence Director, who said this.
I just find this extremely disturbing.
Are you questioning his fitness?
Yes, I do. I really question his ability to, his fitness to be in this office. And I also am beginning to wonder about his motivation for it. Maybe he is looking for a way out. I worry about, frankly, the access to nuclear codes.
That is quite something, Susan. I mean, for a guy who obviously was called out by Congress for lying in testimony, but respected in his intel field, to say what he said there is really something.
Yeah, pretty provocative. Although it's only one step further than Senator Corker took a few days ago. This Republican chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee saying he questioned. He wasn't sure if President Trump had what was the word he used, the stability that was necessary for the job. So Clapper went pretty far there, but that is a debate that you hear among a lot of Democrats, but also among some Republicans these days.
Guy, last word.
I mean, yes, I am sympathetic to the question, or people who ask the question, is Donald Trump fit to be president? I had my doubts about that, which is why I was vociferously opposed to him during the Republican primary in particular. But we have litigated that exact question in a primary, in a general, and then he was elected. So this is not new news.